We are now live on the Retriever Connection with Stephen Durrance and Jake Latondras. No one's on yet. As usual, we were having technical issues on my end, and Stephen's super wife Kendra came in and saved the day. She swooped in with a cape and figured it out.
Pretty impressive the stuff she can do on this thing, because I promise you, without her, we wouldn't be doing any of this on my end.
We're just going to let this populate a little bit. I don't know if I can refresh it. No. I'm going to let people start popping in. There's still 0 people here.
So you said you're flying to Indianapolis?
There's Butch. Herb, there's 7 people. All right, people are coming on. Yeah, I'm flying to Indianapolis tomorrow to film a dog event for the UKC. It's a coon hunting event. I think it's a youth coon hunting event. Maybe there's a world championship in October that I have to go to. But anyhow, doing some diverse work for the UKC, which is kind of cool because it gives me something different to do.
Your only challenge there is, that stuff happens at night, right?
I know. I got to get my headlamp and all that stuff ready. I want to turn my Wi-Fi on my phone off. All right, we got 8 people. Grace, Butch, Lumberjack Waterfowl, Michael Brady, Gloria. Welcome to the show tonight. We're going to let a few more people populate in, and tonight we're going to be talking about. We're going to do the first episode on marking drills, and we're going to do a little bit differently tonight. Stephen's going to run the video on his end because I was having technical issues on my end. So hi, Caroline. But we'll be able to play the entire video all the way through. I know we'll be starting and stopping and all that stuff, but he's going to be the controller tonight. So do you want to go ahead and pop that video into the program, and I'll bring it up on the screen?
Before we do, let's look at that other picture really quick. Guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to be moving toward marking. We have done so much when it comes to handling and different handling drills and concepts, and I've been dying on the inside to get to this. However, one of the things that was made very clear to me is that adding some of my stuff in, some of my setups, helps folks kind of see what we're doing, and kind of what I'm working towards. And yesterday I did a really, it's not a common thing. It's something that's kind of one of my go-to drills when I'm getting my grand dogs back in and I'm getting ready to do some real work. So it made me think, hey man, I need to take a picture of this while we're here. And as soon as I can figure out again how to get this thing up, I'll get it to you. I'm about to have to tap in and call in Kendra for help as usual. Maybe hold on, maybe I can go about a different way. Go to here. Go to 6. Hi, this is so far above my head.
Yeah, Kendra.
I'm telling you what.
Kendra.
That's it. That I'm trying to keep from doing it, but it's about to come
out.
Help! What? Wait, there it is. Now, can I share that as open with paint? About said a bad word.
Leonard, how are you doing tonight? Jeff Matthews, Josh, Blazer, Quinn, Richard, good evening.
Open with paint. All right, so there we go. Hey, share this screen. Share it.
Uh-oh, there we go.
Reduce it down. All right.
And There it is.
All right, so
Hold
this
on.
was
Let me see if I can. Let me see what I can do to make it. Nope. Never mind. I was going to try to make it big. Hang on 1 second. Because I can. Almost. Hold on. I'm almost there. Here we go.
all right. So this is another example of an advanced lining drill that I do, and like I said, this is a complex setup. Involves a lot of recalls. This is not your basic tune-up drill. However, take away the trees for just a moment and pretend they're not there. And these are the 3 blinds that we are running. Need to make that outline a little bit bigger. See if that helps at all. If you look really close on this last one, you can actually see the dog's head swimming in the water about to get out. So if you take the trees out, you can clearly see that we've got just a basic tune-up drill. You run the left-hand blind first, left-hand middle, right-hand blinds, and each time you're taking a greater piece of water, you're swimming farther. So it's straight across, a little bit of angle, more angle. The advanced application of this is we've got 3 keyholes involved as well, and it doesn't look like it from here, but they actually are harder as you go. The left-hand keyhole is the more obvious than the center, and if you can see how much tighter the right-hand keyhole is, the size of the trees, that space between the trees gets smaller, and it's there's a lot of callbacks involved. The thing to remember here is if you're running blind number 1 and the dog misses toward blind number 2 and you repeatedly call back and build that strong wall, then you're actually making it harder for you on blind number 2. Does that make sense, Jake? So if
Sure, I could see why. Because you're telling him no, telling him no, you're telling him no. And then he finally goes through number 1, and he's like, "Well, I ain't going through number 2 because he told me 6 times not to go through that keyhole." So you're building a wall right there, right?
That is correct. And I'm trying to get an inside feel. All right, do that. Essentially, if you call back on this spot multiple times, I don't know why that's not filling. Fill in. If you miss right, let's see. Make this one red and see if it makes any difference. I don't know why my box isn't filling in at the moment. Anyway, if you look and see, if you build this wall to the right and then try to run blind 2, you're really confusing the situation. So one of the applications that I do in this drill is if they miss left on blind number 1, I will build a good strong wall. If they miss right on blind number 1, a lot of times I'll go ahead and handle, because handling is a less of a wall than a recall. And when I run that way, I don't have as strong a wall built on blind number 2, because this is where it gets really, really complicated. If you've had multiple recalls, after they run blind number 1 successfully, they should have a wall. I don't know what. Oh, what did I do? Phil? Solid color. Hey. Okay, so got it now. So let's say they miss left, and I build a wall right here and say, I don't want you to run that anymore. And if they miss right, I don't want to build as strong a wall. I want it to look a lot more like, hey, it's not necessarily a no-go. You just need to be cautious. And then that way, if they hit the center on the 3rd, I don't have a big solid wall built for blind number 2. Now, here's the tricky part. If they're really trying hard, after they do blind number 1, mentally, this line should have a wall as well. Hello, Levi. Boy, we got a good happy house tonight. Why should there be a wall here now?
So he doesn't. I mean, so he doesn't.
He's run blind number 1 successfully and comes back. So why should there be a wall here now?
Because you don't want him to go back through that keyhole.
If he's trying, he's not going to try to perpetuate the same line. So that's what frames here with these keyholes. This keyhole is framed, and if he said, okay, I'm not supposed to go the same place again, then he should mentally put this wall here. I didn't create it. He's saying, okay, that's not right. I need to look somewhere different. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This as this drill goes, typically they'll get number 1 okay. They'll do number 2 really well. Number 3 they will struggle mightily on because it's, look how much smaller the space is, and they're getting squeezed real hard. This was just another example of a drill that I love to do, and I oftentimes don't do this with clients here because a lot of times my clients are running my dogs, and this is such a intricate, advanced drill that either 1, the dogs don't have a good enough relationship with the handlers to give good enough work, that it takes forever. 2, the handlers are not skilled enough to get consistent good lines, and it breeds confusion with the dogs. And 3, this thing just takes a long time to do. When people are doing it right, it takes a long time to do. So a lot of times I save this to when I have an afternoon to myself, because this is a nice shady spot and it's nice and quiet down there, and we have very little cell phone coverage, and me and the dogs have an intimate afternoon.
Walker here. Sorry about that.
Ain't no problem at all. Trust me, I can understand. It is on around here tonight.
So you say, so when you're running that first keyhole, the first line, and you build a soft wall in keyhole number 2, how do you build a soft wall versus a solid wall to the left?
That would be the difference in handling as opposed to
okay, a callback.
Exactly. A callback's going to be stronger, and handling is going to be your lesser of your 2 evils. So it's still going to be a wall, but it's not going to be as strong as if you no here and bring him back.
Okay, I get that.
Any more questions from you or the other folks on this before we can go have fun with some marking concepts?
No, this looks way over my head.
How far am I away from the trees? These are about 25, 30 yards. And you don't want to be any farther away than that, but also I've got my back against the old fence line. So, I mean, I'm just working with the space that I have. This pond, my grandfather always told me that my great-grandfather paid 2 Irishmen $1 a day to dig this pond originally with a wheelbarrow.
Wow.
So it's we've lost it twice since I was a boy, and rebuilt it. But this is a lot of history, a lot of heritage involved in this place.
Wow.
Deciding to handle Mr. Leonard is if things are not clear, if I'm getting multiple infractions going to the same place rather than trying to problem solve and find different places. You'll see when you build the walls, they'll start wanting to run wider and wider outside. Don't be afraid to move up and simplify, or leave the dog at the line, go up through the keyhole, call the dog to you, leave the dog sitting, walk back through the keyhole, call them back to you, and then turn around and kick them off. You'll get a lot of clarity. When you do it that way, this is about simplification. This is not about pressure. This is and you need to have basic tune-up drills down because if your dog is hitting the water, not in this case, they're out of sight for a second when they hit the water. If the dog's hitting the water and bailing to the left, going back to old suction, you're going to have handling issues as well. I'm looking for these dogs to hit the water and gain because of their basics, involved in their basic training as well. A lot of these dogs would hit on blind number 1 or blind number 2, and they pop up swimming at blind number 3 because they're hitting the water and gaining, and I'm actually having to handle them to less water, which is a good thing in this drill, because that means that they are looking to swim farther rather than less. Great question, Mr. Leonard. And like I said, I'm not looking to get bogged down. I'm just every once in a while, I'm trying to take a picture of what I'm doing if I feel like it can be helpful to what we have been talking about in the past. And this is like I said, there's a lot going on something that is so simple. I mean, the swims I think the biggest swim in here may be 65 yards, but you talk about, you could spend a whole day with a truckload of dogs trying to get this right.
So in this, where does this drill, where do you start this drill in their training? Like, how far along is a dog going to be before you?
They need to be really good at running cold blinds. They need to understand no drills. They need to understand tune-up drills, and just think about race the trees and just look at this, just for a pond. That is a diagram, and you could keep going farther right. I mean, you could add in more lines and say, oh, that is not a line.
You can go left of the left tree and right of the right tree.
Well, yeah, you could say, hey, here's another one, and here's another one. You could say that's a really good tune-up drill in and of itself if you take the trees out. Mm-hmm. What I'm showing you is how adding in some extra elements in can make such a gigantic difference. And as you can tell, those trees weren't born yesterday. I mean, these are 100-year-old pines at least that I'm running this drill through. And one day I just said, man, what a neat thing. The water, there's not any points out here. This is pretty featureless as far as the swim, but you add these keyholes in here and you can make what is pretty simple, pretty complex in a hurry.
No doubt.
All right. So if everybody else has asked their questions, we're jumping on to doing some marking, and I'm going to go ahead and give you all a heads up. We're going to be spending a good amount of time. It's taking us a long time to get to this, but that largely in part because a lot of the handling concepts that we're going to touch on when it comes to marking, we understood through learning what handling fundamentals were. So we had to talk about handling in order to talk about marking. I know that sounds crazy, but all right, I'm going to kill this screen, Jake.
Okay.
And try to bring up the other one.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to preface this and say that I apologize. I've just got a lot going on right now, and I forgot to post this earlier in the week. Actually, I was waiting on Steven to watch it, and I wasn't able to post this until today. And when I tried to post it this morning, there was something wrong with it, and it took all freaking day to upload onto Instagram, and literally just posted about 30 minutes ago. So I apologize. Everyone's going into this one cold, and it is what it is. Let me.
I don't know. Are you okay? We lost you there for a second, Jake.
Yeah. Am I back?
Yep, you are back.
Okay. Yeah. I was switching around so that the video player would be the biggest screen on our screen, so it's a lot more visible.
All right. I have a question or two. No. Okay. I've got to make this screen. Yeah, I've got to make this screen. I can't see the video, or I can't see us while I'm doing this, but you cannot see my icon. You can just see the video on my screen. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I can see your mouse.
You can see my mouse.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then that helps. So if somebody pops up with a question or whatever, just let me know, because I'm going to be staring at the other screen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So on marking, Jake, we've got a bunch of things to talk about, and I know I didn't give you much to go on, because again, I like the fact you going out there and getting to start to some work, and then we can tweak and really see what's there. So Jake's right. He sent me this. I didn't get around to looking at it till today. He sent me this last week. And there's a lot of good in here, and there's a lot of things that I want to change. First mark that you picked out, I'm not abundantly upset with, the mark for what it is. And we're going to see a consistent behavior in Tanner that is going to, that we're going to have to call a little bit sooner rather than later. But we're going to go ahead and hit play and start going from here. And I'm going to show you what I like and what I don't like.
Okay.
And remember, raising your hand is not going to do you any good here, because I can't see you. I can only watch this video as we go through. So if you got something, just interject. I really like this subtle edge right over your lip, right over Tanner's head, that subtle entry. There's a lot to be said for that on this mark.
So if you guys,
Go ahead.
Pause that for a second, if you would.
Got it.
So since Stephen can't see the platform screen, if you guys have questions, just type them in, and I'll stop Stephen verbally, and then read your question. You can't see their questions, right, Stephen?
That's correct. I'm
screen?
sure we can get this fixed in the future, but right now I've either got to have the Vimeo tab opened or the Be Live. So I'm either or.
Okay. Well, we can see you. This is a 3 screen. You and I are stacked, and then the video player is to the left, and it's on a big screen, so we're good. All right.
One thing that would be really, really neat, another good mark for later, the tree that's directly behind your bird boy.
Mm-hmm.
If you took like 2 steps to your right, do you see how you got a false edge up front, and you have a false edge down here?
Mm-hmm.
And if you threw that mark that landed in front of this tree, the dog's got a gray approach. When he's swimming, if he's a bit shallow, if he's a bit early, it's going to put him getting out here when the line to the bird is not at that point. That is a very good mark that you can come back and see later.
I didn't even see that. I didn't see that because I'm not I'm not advanced enough to see that subtlety or that kind of a detailed mark. But I will definitely look at that next time and start looking for other features, because this pond and that other pond has little subtle points and edges, feathered edges like that for sure.
Well, and it's going to make a lot more sense to you when you hear, after I give you a couple of illustrations on this. So
okay.
Just know, I mean, I didn't see it until I was sitting here looking at it on a bigger screen. So go ahead and hit play. You're getting Tanner lined up. Good. Finally, we're going to throw a mark. Finally. Now, did you see that right there? Right before. Did you see how he stepped forward with his left foot?
Yeah.
He's already thinking about cheating.
And he did.
That little tiny. You got to watch it again.
Is that the edge, from the front edge of that pond that made him do that, or what?
No, it's this cheating heart. See,
okay.
This is, y'all have been doing nothing but blinds, and he's finally saying, praise the Lord. I'm going to have the opportunity to go get some marks, and Daddy don't know how to make me go get them, and I'm going to get them my way. That's what he's thinking. He's giving you some totally unschooled responses. So you throw the bird. I love that. We got to get these pictures up. That right there is something I can really do a lot of drawing on, just so you know. We're going to send Tanner. And there you go. That's Tanner to a T. That was he told you he was going to do that before the bird ever went off. Now, did you tell him no there? Just out of curiosity.
I did not.
So the same concept of no-nos applies here. He took the wrong line, no here. If he takes the wrong line habitually, then no needs to have a little bit of pressure behind it, not on the first time, because he's just showing you a continual, he doesn't feel like he has to give you the right response on the first rep. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I mean, is he counting? Does he know that?
Oh, yes. Okay. When he understands that the first one's a freebie, the first one's mine, then I'm going to do it my right way. Now, here was your first large mistake.
Okay.
Okay, what'd you do?
Back it up.
All right, 44 seconds in. All right, class, what did he do?
Y'all tell me, because I do not know.
This is a classic mistake that I see made way too often, and I'm clicked over now. I'm on your platform because I want to see if anybody can get the answer to this. The very first time he told you he was going to cheat, you came back, you lined him up well, and you resent him. So, guys, what did he do wrong?
I resent him. I'm at a loss of words. You guys, y'all need to help me.
I cannot believe how nobody's chiming in. Oh yeah, I can believe it. Nobody wants to get called out on the floor. This is good learning right here.
Steven, what is he thinking?
All right, that was a good guess. He didn't line them up right. Wrong. I got no issues with the alignment. He lined them up more tight. There's the answer for Mr. Carl. This is not a blind running drill.
Sure.
This is a marking drill. So when you throw that mark, what's up, Walker? When you throw that mark and he gives you the wrong line, when he's leaving that first time, what's in his mind? How is he viewing this mark?
As the same. I mean, it's I would assume he's seeing it as the same. I mean, I don't even know how to say that. I mean, he's just seeing it as the same as the first throw. The first
throw hits the ground. He's like, I see it. I got it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to go get it. It's like, woman just saw something on the sale rack and she is flying in there with the excited mindset. However, she gets to the sale rack and realizes that the sale rack was the one behind, and what she wanted was actually not on sale, full price. What you just did when you sent him the second time was you sent him at full price. It wasn't on sale. He's not leaving with the same excited mindset. He's going, okay, I got called on my behavior. Watch, every time you stop him, you recall him, and you don't throw again, and then he gives you a perfect job. Do you see the dynamic of this? He's like, okay, I'm getting called on it. So when you're seeing that as, oh, I corrected him, and then he gave me the right thing. No, what you're seeing is the difference in him leaving with an excited mindset and him leaving with a controlled mindset. When you recall him that first time and make him, without rethrowing the bird, just look back out there, the second time you're sending him, it's more like a blind than if it's a mark.
Mm-hmm.
You with me on that?
Yep. 100%.
So
when you pick it up and rethrow it, it's like a reboot.
Exactly. And so you didn't reboot, and he said, okay, I got to do it the right way. And look, Now, that was a little bit of a skinny entry. You saw how he was a little bit right as he was going towards the water. And then when he got to the water, he said a little bit less water. That's not perfect work, but it was much improved from his first send. I like to see my dogs, after they've been corrected and rethrow the bird, take a wider line, take a more water line, a line outside of the mark even. If he'd have jumped in the water in line with the white pole on the bank and swam all the way to the white pole and then got out and got the bird, I would not have got onto him for that one bit. Because you remember we talked about blinds, and I said a dog's got to have a side that they can win on. There's got to be a good side of the blind. Same thing on a mark. There's got to be a good side of a mark. There's got to be a rewarding, safe side, good side, however you want to say it. He's playing with fire on this entry. He's a little bit thin, in my opinion, but it was a vast improvement from his original send. And now you see right there, do you see when he got away from the bank, how he dropped right, and now he is outside the bird? He is showing you a schooled response. He's showing you he understood what happened there. However, he's doing this in the wrong mindset. He's not excited. He's not leaving in that excited mind state. He's doing it more as if it were a blind. But if you draw a chalk line from that bumper to your feet, you see he is actually right of that line. And he's holding that most of the way. He's about to get in line with it now. Let's see what happens as he gets closer to the bank. You see him caving in right there?
I almost stopped him right there, but I honestly didn't know since it's a mark and he knew where it was. I didn't know if I needed to stop him and handle him back to the line or not.
Well, and the answer there is that would be very nitpicky in this situation. I would, if you're looking at just one dog and one mark, then no, that's not the time to do it. But do you also see how if you had been 2 steps to your right and your bird had landed up here on the hill, you'd have found out if he was going to cheat or not, because he'd have caved and got out right here, or he'd have stayed in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot more black and white what you threw, and that's not wrong. I'm showing you the more advanced mark that I see while we're in this place. He was just a eyelash thin. He was none thin coming back. I'd have been very disappointed if he got in the, if he picked up the bumper and then come running back down this edge and tried to get in over here. That would have been like what he was doing to you when you started your down the shore work. So he's showing you that he is dedicated enough to get in the water right there. Now,
I was actually ready to stop him because I thought he was gonna run the shore back.
Yeah, and you were ready. That's great. Now, second thing I'm not crazy about, these marks are way too tight. Your second mark is super duper on top of where your first mark was. And it didn't burn you here because you don't have a pile of cover. But what you don't want to happen is for a dog to start to do that much work to swim that far, and the area of the falls would be so closely oriented that they don't know, that they make a circle or two and end up hunting in an old fall on accident. It was super complex. It would be better had you started farther to your right, and then you cut across like maybe a down the shore mark, getting out. What's that thing that I'm past that post in the left side of the cove? There's something that looks like a.
Oh yeah, that's just like a little leech from the.
Okay, so if you had a mark that landed just right of that leech, and then a mark that landed up at the tree, that we talked about, and you're moving from your right to your left on each mark. As the bird boy moves down, you're moving left and he's moving right. you know, you got an old fall near the leach. You got one up there by the tree, and then you got one down by the edge. That's a whole lot more black and white than on the front of the hill and on the back of the hill. You with me on that?
Well, that so the second mark that he's about to throw, the reason why, I mean, I knew that I was on top of the first three marks were on top of each other.
Yep.
And I knew that. I didn't know that it was, you know, detrimentally wrong to do that. But
part of why you were doing it is because you were building for that long mark, right?
Well, honestly, I felt like I didn't see the other marks that I could do, and I only had my bird boy for a few minutes because he had to get to Nebraska, and so I was trying to utilize my time as wisely as I could. So I went deep instead of arranged, you know, off that linear pattern.
Yep.
I just went deep instead.
And if you think about it too, the orientation of the marks that we talked about doing there, if it's like a tune-up drill, if you look how you're Xing across the line, you're always swimming for more water. The marking pattern is very similar to what a tune-up drill would look like. So this is, again, another reason why we harped on handling so much, because so many of these marks and marking drills complement the handling drills as well.
And so, just so you know, too, the second mark was actually in the water. So it was an exit and re-entry, and then the same thing coming back across that point.
I like the fact that that was in the water because it does help delineate between the area of the falls. But the lines are almost identical. That's what you don't want too much of. You want something to be complementary instead of identical. So I'd like that one to be a little bit more right. That way, one, he could have saw the splash a little more, and two, it would have given you a difference in line from here. You know, even though it's small, it would have given you a little bit of a difference. And what I do like, again, when Tanner gets in the water, you can see him game. He's just a little bit too land-eye dominant getting in. It would have been okay to stop him, you know, even on that skinny entry. You could stop him in the water, tweet, no, here, and rethrow and resend. He should give you a line more to the water side. I mean, all this looks pretty good. You know, as far as what I can see right here, I mean, everything's shaping up pretty well. He's again thinking about beaching a little bit early there. If that had been habitual, you could be well within your rights to tweak him, but especially with that wind changing that bumper angle, yeah, he did a good job on it. Oh, now see, that was a big decision on his part because he surely wanted to run around.
He did.
He wanted to run around big time. All right, we're going to fast forward through this swim back. All right, so now we got Bird Boy on the far bank. And let's see if I can get you a little X. Okay, so you got another line again right over the point. He's shown you on those first two wanting to be skinny getting in, a little bit skinny trying to get out. You would have been better off throwing this last mark over here. So he had to swim past this point and not touch anything because he's showing you a little bit too much of a bend toward the bank. Therefore, you throw a mark that is a clear swim all the way, and if he gets close to the bank, then you can hold him accountable for his actions. Does that make sense?
Way sensible.
Okay. So we're just analyzing this work, and then I'm going to get into a little bit more of why. See right there? That's no good. And again, that would be a no-no here. for me. And this would have been all the way back, even where you're handling from.
Well, when
Look
I
how
had
far money is here.
when I
If you're going
stopped
to
him
handle,
right there, I didn't know what to do, so I just
Yep.
called him back.
okay, so you did call him back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you were going to handle, and that would be a very lesser thing for me, I'd want you to at least get the dog over here, not way down that edge. That was the correct thing to do.
Oh,
So
no.
you called him back, huh? You really did?
I did. Second
Okay,
time.
there we go. There we go. And again, you got to rethrow here. Look how far that mark is. That's a pretty decent mark right there.
That's about 225 yards.
And see, now it's 225, and all this baggage over here. You see how much more you get out of rethrowing it, rather than just a cold send.
I was clueless to the rethrow.
Way better line. That's the best line he's given you yet. We know Tanner has proven that he can swim. Tanner's also proven that he really likes to go to the corner. This is the best decision I've seen him make. And I can't tell if he's making this decision because he's getting outside the bird and whatever you're doing. Now, is he making this decision because the bank is closer to the right, or is he making that decision because he's getting outside the bird? I'm asking you.
I don't. Well, when he did that, I was looking at his head, and he kept looking to his right, like there was something over there that he was seeing. But I don't know what it was. So
the only thing I'm going to say here is, remember, you got to have a good side to the mark, and what's good early might not be what's good late. So if there's more water to the left, like being wide right here early was good. If there's more water to the left now, it might be better for him to be left. But if he's going right because it's a shorter swim, that's undesirable. But if he's going right because he's trying to get outside the mark, then he's exhibiting a trained response.
That's definitely not a shorter swim. The direction he was going was probably a longer swim.
Okay, so he was taking more water. He was choosing the longer, harder route. And what'd you do?
I handled him.
You told him less water. So whenever a dog's choosing more right now, and this is not a forever thing, but when he's choosing more when he wanted to do less, you got to reward that with momentum. I would rather, as opposed to telling a dog less water if they're taking more, let's just say that this water kept going toward the basketball goals and he needed to get out over here. I would not handle then. If he was swimming past the bird, I'd have the bird boy hey him and to help him out of the water, because it's the dog's job to look for more water. It's our job to hold him accountable to that mindset. So if he was in less water and you're casting to more, then you're teaching a concept. But if he's in more water and he's choosing the longer, harder route, I'm not going to handle him there, because I'm not going to apply pressure to a mind that is making a correct decision. This is where having a bird boy makes all the difference in the world. Having a bird boy that can hey and get the dog to come out to him and reward them, or even throw them another bumper or bird, whatever you're throwing, to reward their effort is fine. Don't handle them to less water when you've spent your whole career teaching them to take more. You with me on that?
Totally.
Okay.
The radio. I mean, I've got radios. I just need to make sure my bird boy has a radio, and I need to know more about what I'm doing too.
Now that being said, radios are nice. When you come train with me, you'll realize how little I use them. I have a whole sign language. If I'm waving my hand in a circle, that means I want to hey. If I'm doing like this, that means I want you to throw. You don't have to have radios. They're beneficial, but I'm bad to put a radio down. I hate the fact that there's always batteries dead. My voice works 99% of the time, and it also keeps my bird boys engaged, looking at me and not just staring at their toes while the dog's doing the work. So I have a tendency to use more sign language than I do radios, but I would be in the vast minority there.
I was going to say the deficiency there is in my setup, you got a handler and a bird boy that don't know what they're doing.
Mr. Leonard said you allowed Tanner to turn and take land on the point. Would you allow that or handle to keep his line to the point? I'm thinking Mr. Leonard said your dog was a little bit skinny on the point. He got on a little bit early, which he's got on early in the other two. So you really can't expect him to be perfect on the third if you're going over. But again, I digress. If you go back to throwing that mark where he had to swim totally past it, I would change. If I had that mark, that third mark, and I saw a dog do what he did, I would have changed that last mark and thrown it and made him swim past it because he's already showed me. If the dog doesn't want to get out, I make him get out. If the dog wants to stay in, if the dog wants to stay in, I make him get out. If the dog wants to get out, I make him stay in. I'm looking for that balanced mindset. So we go back to that handle. He started to gain a little bit of water right there, and you handled him to the bird. I would have let him swim just because he was finally choosing more water, personally. And if I wanted him to get a little bit thinner, I'd have had my bird boy help. But I wouldn't have been in a hurry to do either one for a while because he still had a lot of water to go and a lot of time to change his mind. Does that make sense?
It does. I honestly felt like he was swimming towards something, like he was looking at something, I felt like he was distracted from that mark, which is why I handled him.
So when we're talking about helping, by the way, let's say that distraction was not an element and that he was just making a mistake. If I called for help here, let's say Tanner was progressing across the pond and getting farther and farther away. If I call for help, my bird boy's next throw doesn't necessarily land where the original mark did. If the dog's to the right of the mark and he's way wide, my helper birds will land to the left of the original mark to help pull him more toward where he needs to be. Does that make sense?
Yep.
More importantly, if I've got a young dog that's struggling and they're under the arc and they're way left, and I get rather than handling, or I've handled a couple times unproductively and I feel like the dog is losing momentum, then my helper birds will go way over here. This is what you see more often than not. They'll throw them another 10 or 15 yards past where their original throw was because the dog's so skinny. They're just trying to get it to as much water as they possibly can to help them get back into a black and white situation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Super. Grace, you're getting ahead of yourself, honey. This is we got to remember we're teaching Jake here. Absolutely, what you're saying is not at all wrong. I would not disagree with you one bit, but we got to explain to Jake why.
You shouldn't swim around that point.
Well, and her question there is that even though you threw the mark where you threw it, not even moving it farther right, throwing it there and then making him swim around
just to stay in the water.
Well, again, go back to your rebar analogy here. If his mind was a piece of rebar, it is bent toward the shoreline, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to straighten that piece of rebar, you can't just push it straight. You have to push it past the point of center. You have to push it you have to bend it equally the other way so that when it snaps back, it snaps straight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Grace is alluding to here, is that his mind is so bent toward land, you bend them more toward water, and don't let him get out where he thinks he can get out, just for the sake of modifying his mindset that getting out on that point is not always going to be an option. So the majority of my handling, if I had chose to do that, would have been before the point, not behind, not past it. I'd have made him swim around that point to start with, and then let him finish the mark. And if he was confused after it, I'd have probably clarified with help on the throw.
Got it.
Okay, so the thing to remember here, and this is where people get so lost, Jay. You cannot get absorbed. These are singles. These are not multiples. This is a single. And folks get too wrapped up with being perfectly straight on singles. They want the dog to do perfect. But you got to remember what I said and apply this. A dog's got to have a side to win on. There's got to be a good side. There's got to be a safe side. So if your dog is perfectly straight on a single, what happens if that single is now the memory bird of a multiple? So going back all the way to your original first bird that landed, between the tree and the post. If you go all the way back to that mark and think about the line that he took. The first time he tried to run left, you called him back, you resent him, he jumped in the water just a little bit thin. Then he gained water, and then he got across the cove, and then he was a little bit thin exiting, and then he went and got the bird. All right, if that's his line on a single, and you throw this bird first, and you got another one that splashes over here to your left, and you go get the splash bird, and you come back, and he's a little bit uncertain of where the mark is, or he's a little bit tired, or he's a little bit insecure. What happens to a dog when they get uncertain, tired, insecure? What happens to a dog on this mark?
He gets he wants to get out.
He pulls towards suction, which is the bank, which is the bird boy. All those factors pull him left, which means at best, based off that initial line that he took the very first time on the very first mark, he may get in and swim at the black pipe, maybe. If he's not choosing water and water readily, and the water side of the mark on a single, it's only going to get worse when that turns into a memory bird. So it goes back again. You got to teach them to be crooked before they can be straight, because they're already crooked the wrong way. They're already inclined to run around the bank, to cheat the water. You got them to want to be, you got to teach them to want to be more watery on the water side of the line, not the land side of the line on singles. You got to teach this on singles. And then that way the principles can help apply to hold them straight when it's a multiple. So even though we're talking about singles here, you got to look at this in the context of when it's not a single, when it's a memory bird, or when it's tough. Are they taking the correct line then? Now, how does this apply to hunting? Same thing. We're talking about it as if it was a competition situation, but same thing here. You shoot a couple of birds and one sails on you that's really long. You picked up a couple in the decoys that's right in your face, and now you've got that mark that you got to go down the side of this pond and go across that point, and you got a barbed wire fence over here from a cattle pond, and you're trying to keep them out of that. If they've got that cheaty mindset, it's not going to do good for you in the long run. Am I talking crazy here? Am I getting you some clarifications?
No. I mean, yes, you are giving me some clarification, but I think I think I'm getting with all that, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here because I feel like that's it went, there's
I know I'm slamming you here. Like I said, I promise you this won't be the first and last time we talk about it.
sure.
And when I can sketch this out on paint next week, it's going to be even more clear to you. This is kind of like discussing the Cliff Notes version of what we're working toward, so you can apply this to some more marks, and we can talk about it more in depth next week. The long and the short of it so far is that, one, on his initial send, Tanner's not thinking about getting in the water. That's a big problem. You've got to hold him more accountable to that. Number two, he's a little bit skinny getting in on the second send. That can be a problem. I want to see him trying to get outside the bird. Three, he's gaining water pretty good across, but on the exit, he's wanting to beach again. We're going to talk about all these applications and how to fix them.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for in these cheating single concepts is a dog that is trying to choose water first, that is trying to be a watery dog and take the hard direction first rather than looking for the easy way around. Tanner's showing you he's looking for the easy way around. And that's why I didn't want to give you too much lead in this, because we got to see what we're working on. He did a decent handle. He got the rest of this bird just fine.
No problem.
Pick it up. We're coming back. Now, if I remember right here. Now, one thing that that alarmed me right here is as soon as he picked that up, your guy was already back across the pond, which means Tanner has lost his reference point as far as a bird boy. If you needed bird boy help, he was gone. So this is something I like my bird boys to be. A retired gun's a whole nother thing we're not even going to get into yet. But I want my bird boys to be there to help the dog if they need to, not just throw the bird and leave.
Wait till my neighbors see me get a four-wheeler in my bird boy.
Now, the other thing you're seeing right here, look how cheaty he's being on the way back. You see him getting way left here. That's him saying, you can't see me, so I'm gonna have it my way a little bit. He's going to Burger King and he's having it his way. This is where I would get onto him and tell him no over and make him swim by way out here, and then come back and see me just because I can. And I know you have that tool in place. See, now he was skinny swimming back. Now watch what happens when he comes over the point. Exactly. It's like, hey, you couldn't see me, so look what I just got.
Now he sees me. I better get back over there.
Yeah, but that was the most he thought about cheating as well. Did you see it? Well, he did get in, but he was certainly thinking about running around. Yes, ma'am? Okay.
And I gave him an attaboy for it.
Well, I know y'all are jumping in this pool, and neither one of you knows what's at the bottom of it. Yeah. My little girl turned 7 today, guys. My firstborn child turned 7 years old. It goes by. I know all y'all know it, but it goes by fast. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And we're swimming back. There we go. Now, okay, I hate this mark in 1,000 ways. I don't know what you were trying to get out of it.
A different angle.
Running down the bank, all the way down the bank, and then jumping and swimming across. It would have been great had you put it between the culvert and the sign and made him angle in right here.
I thought about that afterwards, actually.
It would have been beautiful. But what he did here, this right here is nothing but exercise. Now, I mean, it did land in the right place. Okay, I take that back. It landed perfectly. He just didn't take the line.
Look at my line. Look how I lined him up.
Yeah. Put your hands on your hips and act like you know what you're doing. Oh, my gosh. I mean, that right there, this goes back to what I was saying, on this mark, it's almost contrary in that getting outside the bird means running farther, right? He'd have to get inside the bird, inside, in order to do it right. But that is a great mark, and we're going to come back and we're going to do this sucker, and we're going to do it right. I assure you, especially since he got away with it once, he's certainly going to feel like he can again. I don't even want to watch the rest of this because this is just, ugh.
Well, at least we're getting through these a lot quicker.
You see what I'm at there. I mean, there's nothing good out of that mark at all. When you look at this too, I mean, when you look at these marks, and one of the best ways to gauge on what's right, wrong, and different is think about what would a dog with no training do? What would a dog that is doing this naturally, how would they do it? And if you look at what Tanner did there, I mean, other than the dog running all the way around the pond, that's the only thing that a school dog could do, right?
Yeah, he rolled down the ridge, down the hill like a bowling ball.
I mean, he was loving it. And this is great that you're up away from the water. And I love the fact that you have these side hills to negotiate, because it can be something. Think about if you did throw a double, that the memory bird landed where the mark that you threw did, and your go bird landed, kind of over here where your bird boy's standing, so that the line was go get that bird. Now come back and jump in the water and be good and go down here and get the one that you threw originally. He ain't going to do it. He ain't going to do it right. Certainly not right. And now you're seeing why. This goes back to what I was saying. The dog's got to be looking to choose water readily.
Wait, hold on a second. So, having said all that, when I went out there that day to throw these marks, knowing we hadn't talked about how to set marks up, I'm not even thinking technical marks. I'm not thinking about now this one. I was combining a long mark with a down the shore blind, but everything else were just random. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna change angles this time. I wasn't even looking at the terrain or the contours of the shoreline or any of that stuff. I was literally just trying to think of how many different angles I could get in 15 minutes with my bird boy.
That's and you did a great job. I got no complaint on that. And like I said, you gave us a lot to look at, and again, explaining this mindset and showing you what we're looking for. If I remember right, Tanner tries to cheat you right here, which again shows that he's choosing when you back away from the water and give him a chance. He thinks the first one's a freebie. And one of the big things that we're going to change for, I don't know how long you're going to be gone. One of the big things that we're going to change for next week is that we're not going to give freebies on these little, when it's black and white to get in the water and he wants to run around, we're going to stop and give him a nick and then tell him no here. And we're going to rethrow every time that he messes up. Because trust me, he's going to give you a few of those.
I'll be back Sunday, so I'll be able to run the drill Monday morning and then post it up that day, and then have the discussion Tuesday night.
Super. Okay, first off, super complex mark here. Super duper difficult. Why?
Because of the shoreline.
Yes. Someone else help Jake here. What about this mark makes it so incredibly difficult? I know we got a little bit of lag here because once we waited a little while, we had a bunch of people, come in a big wad. But this is something that I really want, what about this particular mark makes this so much more difficult?
That boy threw it from left to right.
Exactly. The direction you threw the dog out of the water here.
Aha.
Rather than into the water. It's similar to your last mark where he cheated so far down the bank, but it's way worse here because, you literally have the difference between land and water. I would have originally thrown this mark right to left and got the dog reliably taking that line before I threw left or right.
The whole reason I didn't is because I didn't trust my bird boy well enough to be able. I thought he was going to throw it too far wide to the left. Had I made him throw it the other way, and that's not what I wanted. So that
I'll give you a hint. Everything that Tanner showed, he couldn't throw it too far wide to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Because the farther left you're going to throw it, the more he's going to want to hug that edge and not get out. So, are you understand what I'm saying there? If you're throwing it right there makes him happier than if you throw it another 10 yards to the left, because 10 yards to the left means he's got to get off that shoreline, get his feet off the bottom, do all those things that he doesn't want to do because he's showing a land-eye dominance anyway.
And so my back cast on the shoreline side would have turned him in, threading that needle, and he would have been taking more water each time I casted him. Is that what you're saying? So if I casted him with my right hand, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I had him turn towards the shore on a down the shore swim,
Yep.
he would have been angling back towards more water each time because of the way the bird was thrown.
If you threw it right to left or left to right?
Right to left. If it's opposite of what it is now.
Yes. So if the question that you're asking is even more complex than you realize. So if I've got a dog originally that if you threw this bird right to left and they're trying to get out, when I'm teaching, I will do a left-hand cast. I will stop and cast them to more water and try to get them to take more water and even swim to where the bird boy is standing in this picture, which he wouldn't be there because you'd thrown it the other way, but I'd have made him swim past the bird. But when I'm really galvanizing the cast, when I'm making sure it's there, I will give that verbal into the bank and expect them to not take a 180, but to take more like a 210 and to turn, look at the bank and push for more water, just like what you're talking about. But that is super complex. Okay. That's you don't even need to be in that because you don't need to be throwing the mark this way anyway. That was good stuff. I'm telling you, this is and watch Tanner. Now, did you see it again? Did you see him cheat before he ever cheated?
I didn't catch that part.
Watch his head again. This is exactly like mark number 1. Watch his head right here. Right. Oh, I missed it. I missed it there too because I saw him do it. Hold on. Back that up just a little bit more. Let's see this one more time because I saw him step with that right foot and lean right before he ever threw for the mark. Hold on. Here we go. Right there. It wasn't as obvious as I thought it was, but it was there. And there comes the 40-foot circle. Did you nick him right there on that slow sit?
I don't remember if I did or not. I may have.
You did. Bless your heart if you did. Because he gave you a terrible.
Yeah, I nicked him.
Did. Yeah, you did. Good job, Jake.
Because he was going so freaking wide. I thought like he was being lazy.
It was, but in his mind, it was for no sit. It was for not sitting quick enough, and that's what you should have got him for. That was legit. He deserved every bit of that.
Okay.
And again, even though you're throwing it the wrong way, you'd have been better off rethrowing it right here.
Gotcha.
You see how much now what he did?
I blocked him too.
You did block him, but go back and look again. I don't block him, but watch the difference in his body language when you resend him. I know you were trying to block him, but watch when he leaves. He leans left hard. You see him look left and go? because that was also him going, oh, wait a minute, I remember schooling. Now, see that whistling cast? No, no. This is, again, why you have to throw it right to left, because you were correcting him because he was too wide. He was to the left of the gun. Guess what? That gun shouldn't be there. He should be where he is right now is actually him trying to modify his behavior appropriately. Even though he's on the wrong side of the gun, you got to let him swim that out and see what happens, because he chose land. You told him no. Now he's choosing water, and you didn't give him a chance to do anything other than just jump in the water, and you handled him. This is not.
I had down the shore blind on my brain right there.
Yep, and now we're in marks, which is, it's inherently different, but you got at least. But see, the thing is, the good part about that is at least you understand what your premise is behind handling. You understood here that, hey, right hand verbal means stay in the water. There's so much foundationally that you were ahead of yourself because you at least knew what the objective was here.
I honest to God was thinking at this point, when I cast him on a right hand back, and I want him to stay in the water.
Now you see right there again, he got near that point, started to push away and say, I'm staying in, and you cast him to less water. That's asking for trouble. And it's something that I would do all the time because I'm intentionally asking for trouble. You just don't know what you're asking for yet. Is the point that I'm making there, is that, this is what you're doing to him is super duper complex. Because it's just, right there, I'm letting that dog swim. I'm letting it. And see, that's why he didn't want to take that cast either. He's saying, you're not pinning me in.
I wanted him to swim down that shore.
I know what you wanted. You wanted him to be a machine, and you didn't understand the difference between good side of the line, bad side of the line. See, you told him to do that, and lo and behold, he did. He was starting to get and see that. Look at here. Now I got the bank on my mind, Daddy. Oh, I'm gonna put my feet on the bottom. Watch here. See, those last two casts were your fault, and this one too, because he was trying to take water, and you told him less water, and then he got it on his mind, and that natural tendency showed up right there. So, again, you weren't allowing him to have a good side to work on. You weren't allowing him to say, I'm in the water and swimming, and that's the way I need to complete this mark.
The second cast, once he got past that point, I knew the whole thing crumbled. I knew it would deteriorate, but I wanted to just keep going because I knew these mistakes were going to be important in this discussion for me.
Yep. 100%.
No. Over.
That was a pretty good application on your down the shore water blind in our marking discussion. Now, remember though, when you know over, you got to stop him. You got to make him cross that line, and you got to stop him and give that right hand verbal, not just do left hand the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Super. All right, so we got to remember not to blow up this. We got to remember not to blow up this and turn it into too much blind running concepts. On our marking, I want you to remember, right now, throw the dog into the water. That doesn't mean they can't be skinny, but your direction of throw needs to be towards the water. You don't have to get crazy long. You can crisscross your lines. But you want to see the dog consistently choosing water and being on the watery side on the entry and the exit. So when you pick your marks next week, I want you to pick some stuff that looks super cheaty. I want you to get up off the water. I want you to not be afraid to correct if he takes the wrong line. I want you to, if he takes the wrong line, always remember to rethrow. You don't have to pick up the one that was there. Just throw another one. So he's leaving in the appropriate mindset, and start thinking about water side is good side, land side is not a good side. So start playing the duality of this scenario. You know, if he's in the water and he's on the water side, is he trying or is he not? If he's on the land side, is this an accident or is Tanner trying to get away with bare minimum requirement here? And remember, all this is building towards multiples. It's crazy to think that they got to be wide on these singles. I mean, I'll never forget the day that Russell and I got on the same page on this, because he said, Stephen, you know, watching your dogs run all these singles, he said, why are your dogs always so far offline? That was the word he used. Why are they so wide? And I said, because this is not about a single, it's about a multiple. And, you know, his dog, when he came to train with me, was as beautiful arrow straight on a single as you would ever see. Whatever single you threw, she held a chalk line, and it was gorgeous. And so, you know, we were talking and just weren't on the same page. And I finally said, Russell, if that mark was a memory bird, where's your dog? He said, under the arc. I said, my dog is on line. And it was like 1,000 light bulbs went off in his head. He's like, oh my gosh, you know, every single I throw, my dog's perfectly on line. Yours are not, but they're always on the watery side. So when suction happens, his dog sucked, the suction pulled the dog under the arc and toward the gun, where it had the same effect on my dog, except it was wide of the bird, wide of the line, and it pulls them onto the line rather than being on line and now off. They're offline to the watery side, and it pulls them onto the line.
See, so this is where the paint diagrams come in.
Yes, and you're going to see it all next week. Like I said, I know this is Cliff Notes version, but I promise you, this is a lot of stuff that you're going to see how it really pays off. And these concepts right here, Sean Hager, another one of my ace #1 guys who's just coming to start working with me, this explanation, this application has made the biggest difference in his dog. Sean's been a successful pro for 12, 15 years now. And he said, Stephen, I've never had anybody explain this way before, and it makes so much sense, and it's showing in his dogs already, and it's great for everybody involved. So pick some more good marks, have some fun. Pay attention to when you think Tanner's doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. And when he just blatantly chooses to run around the pond, don't just build a small wall like we talked about in no-no drills. Don't just no-no here. You stop him, you put a good collar correction right there, and then you tell him no-no here. The further away from the water, the better. The further away that you get your correction, you know, if he jumps left early, stop him early. Don't let him get all the way down there to the water. Build your wall early and see if he doesn't. I guarantee you, when you start putting a collar correction with that recall, you'll see him, the severity of the correction that you put on your recall, whether it be no pressure, a nick, a burn, affects the line into the water. It makes them take more water if they're trying hard here. And I'll explain why later. But if you're lining up and throwing a mark that's an obvious watermark and he's trying to run around, Tanner is giving you the middle finger in a big way.
Mm-hmm. I felt it. For sure.
This is really good stuff, but pick some more, throw some more.
Okay.
Let's get a lot of stuff to sift through. And I definitely, one of the things to remember, I want some still images I want a freeze frame of your setup so that we can
from the ground level, camera level, draw the line.
just like what you got right there. So we can run a picture up and diagram it as we go.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that was pretty good for the first marking lesson and
I
discussion.
am so excited to be moving towards marks. This is such a
Well, this is great.
we talk so much about control because controlling a dog is so misunderstood. But marking is every bit as important, if not more. If I've got to choose between taking a good marking dog and a good blind running dog, I want to take a good marking dog because a marking dog makes you have to run less blinds anyway. So control is important, but marking is paramount. So
Well, we've talked about from the very beginning of all this, I'm a guide and Tanner's a guide's dog. That's why he's with me in the first place. And this part of it looks to me like, the direction and momentum we're going in right now and the timing of it all is going to take us right into duck season, which we're going to have
got it.
we're going to have a whole lot more marks than we are blinds.
And the thing to remember there too, like if you remember one of the things that I pointed out to you when we talked about Tanner initially, I said Tanner's a dog that when you send him for a mark, he's not going to come back without it. You're not going to have to stand there and babysit him. He is a dog that's so driven when he leaves for it, he's going to come back with it. And this is the point to be made. Tanner's job when he sees something fall is for Tanner to go get it, but to go get it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to feel like even though it's his job and he's got the opportunity to go get it, he still needs to do it the right way. It's Tanner doing the right thing for the right reason, not doing it because he feels like he's just being controlled. And that's what you're dealing with right here. When you send him the first time he tries to run around, that's when he feels like he's got the opportunity to do it his way. And when you bring him back and you send him again, and he's like, oh, man, I got to do in a controlled mindset. I want him to make the right decision when he's in an excited mind state, not just when he's being controlled and knows that he's in training.
Mm-hmm. Roger that. If a dog's in swimming water on the land side of the line, do you just handle to get them on the water side, or do you let them beach, give no, call them back into the water and handle?
That's a super great situation, Jeff. It depends on the dog. It depends on the violation. Some dogs won't get out. Some dogs will just stay as close to the edge as they can and kind of let their toenails touch and be happy with that. So it depends on the dog. That's not it's not really a like so many things in dog training. It's a situational thing. So both those things can have their place. If it's a young dog, I'm going to do a lot more handling than I am punishing. I can go ahead and tell you that. So teach before you punish. But the thing to remember too here, Tanner knows. Tanner knows. And Tanner's just trying Jake.
He knows what I don't know.
Absolutely. And we're going to fix that. We're going to make you strong.
That's right. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for your time. Actually, we're about an hour and a half into it. And I've got to fly to Indianapolis, and I haven't even packed my clothes yet. So this gives me a little time to pack. But thanks again for your time, your knowledge, your wisdom, and thanks everyone else for showing up again and asking the right questions and hanging in there with us while we had technical issues and all that good stuff. So I guess until next week, we'll see you again on the Retriever Connection with Stephen Durrance and Jake Latondres. He's the coach, I'm the student, and Tanner's my dictator.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great week.
See you guys next week. Thank you so much.